Howdy, folks. Today we're going to talk a little bit about some old paper and pencil role-playing games. Specifically, the Top Secret was the name of it. Top Secret and James Bond paper and pencil role-playing games. I thought it was appropriate because the latest James Bond film is doing very well in theaters. So I thought, well, what a better time than for those people that have memories of playing those old, role-playing games to kind of, blast from the past, jog their memory a little bit. And then those that had no idea that they even existed, to introduce you to them, and because they're a lot of fun. So if I post this on my Facebook page, so if you came here and role-playing games does not interest you, then you might want to go watch something else or do something else, because that's what we're going to be talking about. So I'll start off with the original Top Secret, which was produced by TSR, same people that produced Dungeons and Dragons. And this is what, I don't have the original box anymore, but I still have all the game materials. But this is what the original book looked like. And let's see here. There we go. And you got TSR logo right there. And it was produced in the early 80s. So you got the basically the idea was just like Dungeons and Dragons, where you take on the role, the persona of an adventurer. You could be a warrior or a sorcerer or whatever in Dungeons and Dragons. And in Top Secret, you could be a secret agent, and you had to choose. You chose from specialties. A certain weapon that you would specialize in using, which would, of course, give you bonuses and all that. And then another thing that was big integrated into this was language. You got to choose, I think, a couple to begin with. You had to, obviously you would start with English most of the time, and then you got to choose something else, whether it be French or German or Portuguese or whatever. And, of course, that would come in handy depending upon what mission you were sent on, what part of the world you were getting sent to, and all those types of things. And then, of course, you could specialize in hand-to-hand combat or martial arts, communications. You could have medical skills, whatever the case may be. And then basically, your game master would put together, if he didn't use one that was already bought from a store or something that was produced, and he just decided to make up his own, he would send you on an adventure, a mission, somewhere in the world, and you would get to act out how you would react to situations as if you were a secret agent. And so it was a lot of fun. When this came out, James Bond, of course, I believe it was still Roger Moore, and it was very, it's always been popular, but I remember that when this game came out, it did very well. It actually came with a module or a mission to start you off, and I still remember how to say this if you want to look at the name of this thing. Operation Spreckenhaltestel is how we figured that was said. I have no idea what that translates to, but the code name was Pisces. And so the missions were in these dossiers here, and of course the game master would be the only one that would look at it and everything. And so that would have all the information about the adventure and so forth. And then you could also buy separately, you could buy agent dossiers, which were basically character sheets that you could, document all of your attributes and everything on there. And so that was for the original Top Secret. And then TSR, later on in the 80s, they kind of did a revamp of it, and they named it Top Secret SI, and that's the cover of the box. And they SI stood for Special Intelligence, and of course you got regular player's guide, and then there was a game master's guide and a sample module to play with and all that stuff. And they basically just changed, they flushed it out a little bit and added some elements and things like that. But essentially it was the same game. And again, just a lot of fun. And not to be outdone, of course, the James Bond franchise decided, and this was Victory Games, I believe. Yeah, Victory Games. They decided to come out with their own role-playing game in James Bond franchise world. And this is what it looks like. And it says role-playing in Her Majesty's Secret Service, of course. So, and it has quite extensive set of rules and everything. And it's basically the same thing, except you're actually in the world, the James Bond world. So you're working in, you're an agent in that agency, the same agency that he was in. I think it's MI6 or whatever, and so you even get to interact in the game with the game master would be playing the part of Q, who of course makes all the weapons and special fun gadgets and all that stuff. And of course they had to put out a Q manual. Now this, even if you had no intention of ever playing the game and you were just a fan of James Bond, this is a fantastic book. It has every gun, every gadget that has ever been used in the franchise. They have it in here. They've got the cars. They've got all the gadgets, the weapons, the planes, you name it. It's in here. And so, like I said, even if you weren't going to play the game, I mean, they've even got pictures from the movies in there, And so even if you weren't going to play the game and you're just a fan of James Bond and you really, if you're one of those people that went out and bought the whole set of movies, on Blu-ray just so you could, be a completionist and everything, what better thing to have than the Q manual, And they also put out Thrilling Locations. And it basically goes into, now this of course was up until whatever time this was produced. Any movies that came after either one of these, the Q manual or the Thrilling Locations, of course wouldn't be in there. And these were put out in the late 80s. So it's going to be more of the original, Sean Connery, Roger Moore era than any of the newer stuff. But there's a lot of cool stuff in these. The Thrilling Locations is self-explanatory. I mean, the casino in Monte Carlo, any place that the characters had been in those movies up until that point is in these books, in this Thrilling Locations book. And then so between that and the Q manual, I mean, you got the world of James Bond in these two books right here. So anyway, again, those are from Victory Games. And so, and one other little piece from my archives that's related is, I don't know if you guys remember, but there were these things called Endless Quest books, again, made by TSR. And the idea of the books were that you would read, and then it would get to a point like here, where it's offering you two choices. And if you choose to do A, you go to a certain page, and if you choose to do B, you go to a different page. And then the story your choices would continue how the story would affect how the story would continue. And so sometimes your choice could get you killed. I mean, you'd turn to a page and it would say, oh, you just got blasted in the head, by a bad guy or something. Who knows? And so you had to make the right choices to successfully finish the mission, you know, and everything in the book. And they started that with Dungeons and Dragons. That was what they started with. But they did one top secret endless quest book. It was called Robbers and Robots, and it even says top secret adventure book right there. So that's kind of the extent of my collection when it comes to espionage, James Bond type role-playing games. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please, if you haven't already, subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it and you want to call me names or whatever, please put those comments down as well. They're welcome just as much. And we will see you in the world of gaming next time.